And our word for today on this memorial of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Religious this Thursday, December the 4th, our word for today, C, S-E-E-C. Here to talk about it, Andrew Reinhart. Andrew, we are so thrilled to have you back with us. First time in the new year.
Mm-hmm. Good morning, Dave and Ron. How are you all?
Doing wonderful. Great, thank you.
It's good to be seen, too.
Yeah.
You know, they say you have a face for radio. Well, maybe we'll break the trend here.
Yeah, right.
So our word for the day is C. This is from our gospel reading, but I think it's also connected to our first reading. In this great reading from the gospel, or from the letter of St. John, chapter 3, he says, the children of God and the children of the devil are made plain. No one fails to act in righteousness belongs to God, nor anyone who does not love his brother. So there's this dynamic that this first reading is talking about of being begotten by God or being adopted by God, the idea of divine adoption. You know, this comes back to Jesus' teaching on baptism, where he says, you know, you need to be born of water and the Spirit. And then he's questioned, well, how can I climb back into my mother's womb?
Right.
And what Jesus is talking about here, being born of water and the Spirit, of course, is the sacrament of baptism, this beginning of a new life. And our word for the day is seeing. You know, when we think of this kind of divine adoption, that's the beginning of our spiritual life, our supernatural life in the Lord at baptism, we could expect that there's some kind of continuation of this analogy, continuation of this reality, that as we grow in the spiritual life, it's going to be similar to a sort of childhood.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you're not just born complete and done. You're born with a heck of a lot of growing to do. Right. And the same is true for us as Christians. We're born and we have a heck of a lot of growing to do. You know, the date of our baptism is just the beginning. And this is often, what I would tell people when they were going through the RCIA process at the cathedral when I worked there, I would say, we don't have a test at the end of RCIA because RCIA is just the beginning. I tell them the test is at the end, like all the way at the end when you're standing before the Lord. You know, when they were baptized on the Easter Vigil, it was really just the start. And they often got the sense of, well, that was the end of it. But that was just the beginning. We were just preparing them to get into the game. So for us too, as Christians, we have to understand that we're going through this process, this growth process, this maturing process. And so like a little baby, at first they grow and they get connected to their parents and they develop. And it's primarily through the sense of touch, right? They're in the mother's womb. But then once the baby's born, it's being held and being fed and all these different ways that touch is interacted with. But then there's a certain point, and you notice it in a baby's development. You know, we have a 4-month-old, so this is starting to happen right now, where they start looking around and noticing things. And then they start reacting, but they start reacting primarily to your look. You know, they did these terrible experiments at one time where they would take, a baby in this stage of development where the look of the parents is so important. And what they would do is they would have the mother sit in front of the baby with dead face.
Oh, my goodness.
Just not reacting. And at first the baby kind of tries to entice the mother, like making cooing and cawing sounds and laughing and giggling and trying to get the mother to react to her. And then at some point the baby would start crying and calling out. And then at some point the baby would just shut down.
Oh, my goodness.
So the child, just from not having the interactive look, the smile, not seeing the mom's reaction, goes through this process of really a survival instinct. We as Christians are the same with God. We need God's look, and we need to see God.
Amen.
You know, when they have this interaction that's going on between Jesus and his early apostles and their conversion, and Jesus says, come and see, right? He's not just inviting them to come and like look at his hotel room or something.
Yeah, right.
What he's saying is, come live with me. Come stay with me. And this is what was in the disciples' hearts. You don't ask where somebody's staying because you're just curious.
Right.
Like, did he get in a 4-star place or a 3-star place? No, they wanted to know because they wanted to spend more time with him. They wanted to remain with him. They wanted to be present with him. And they wanted to have this constant interactive love relationship with Christ that ended up transforming their lives and their hearts.
Right.
And we're called to the same kind of a relationship too. So especially in this year of the Eucharistic Revival, we had this great saint today, the saint of the Tabernacle, and this idea of seeing, well, what's that Eucharistic adoration, right? I like to think of adoration as the food TV of the faith. Because what happens when you watch the food TV?
Oh, yeah.
You get hungry,
right?
That's good. So if you want to receive, if you want a deeper desire to receive Jesus in Holy Communion and to receive the graces offered to you at Mass, go to Eucharistic Adoration, and you'll have that desire burrowed out in your heart by seeing God. And it's a real foretaste of heaven, right? Because what's heaven called but the beatific vision? Right? We're receiving God with our eyes. And all of this matches with our natural human development pattern. So a word for the day is see.
Love it. We need God's look. Well, I agree with that. Thank you so much, Andrew. God bless you, brother.